Hello, everybody, and welcome to DC Time. I'm Dean.
I'm Chris.
Thanks for joining us. Glad to get together again. I'm back at Chris's house. Moved upstairs now. I was in the basement last week. But it's good to be here. Good to be shooting another video. We just hope to encourage anybody out there that's listening to these things. Love you all out there that do listen. Appreciate the comments and the conversations we have from time to time, week to week, with different ones of you all out there. Really appreciate that. Chris has got some good stuff here to bring for us. I saw a t-shirt a couple weeks ago. Someone at work had on, and it was the Philippians verse 4. Is it 4? Philippians chapter 4, 11 through 13. Yeah.
And the verse is 4:13.
And that that one verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me type verse. And you see that. And you see it from a standpoint of a motivational type thing, almost like a motivation. It could be used as a motivational speech, almost like I can do this, right? So I just saw that and was looking at things. I just want to read some. I don't even know who this person wrote some things about it. I just found it interesting and might go with what Chris says, talks about a little bit. But instead, that verse, what Paul's doing during this time, he's thanking others for their support of him. I believe at the time he's in prison when he's writing this, and writing about what he's experiencing. And he's talking about, well, let me just read what this guy says, because, and it takes away from the motivational speech aspect and really deepens the meaning here, what Paul's getting at. It said he's not describing some kind of technique for getting what you want out of like what we all want day to day out of our circumstances. We always want things, right? And then we need motivation to get things, and we try to drum up things, and sometimes verses of scripture are used, right? What could be wrong with that? Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's just trying to pull out what is Paul really talking about. So if he's not describing technique for getting what you want, he's just describing a settled peace that doesn't depend on getting what you want. So I liked that line there. Okay, so if Paul, and you guys, I'm just bringing it up so you guys can look at all that and look at that passage and see what Paul's really doing, because Paul is settled and at peace and has tremendous joy within him, and it has nothing to do with his circumstances. It's not dependent on getting what he wants. He doesn't want to be in prison, I'm sure. He's not talking about those things. So when he's talking about Christ strengthening him, or the concordant, do you still have it pulled up? Reads completely different, but the most popular translations, I just grew up seeing that verse. You know, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And Paul's just talking during that time about a settled peace that he has, regardless whether he can do things or not, or regardless of his circumstances. So it's more from he's settled through a time of suffering, or has joy through times of discomfort. That's what he's talking about. And that's what Christ is doing in and through Paul and for him. So it's not some kind of a motivational thing that you need to act upon and think, oh, I can do this if Christ helps me, or something like that.
Right.
I just found that it was just interesting. Just wanted to bring that up.
Well, and even I brought up Philippians 4:13. That's what the one you're talking about. And I'm reading.
The concordant reads different.
It does read different.
Yeah.
If I start in verse 12, it says, I am aware what it is to be humbled, as well as aware what it is to be superabounding. In everything and among all am I initiated, to be satisfied, as well as to be hungering, to be superabounding, as well as to be in want. For all am I strong in him who is invigorating me. That's exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
In all of those things, he is invigorated by Christ. And he is strong in regardless of the circumstances that he finds himself in.
Yeah, he has peace through not winning.
Yeah.
Right. And man, everything here is about I can do, I can win, or I can get this, or I can beat this circumstance, or I can fix this, or I can rise here or do this.
Right.
He's talking about a peace when he's not winning.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me, today's email goodie, Andre had a quote, and I thought, I've asked this so many times in prayer, we don't need to ask God to work in us, but only to acknowledge and believe that he already does.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that's that little shift, that's that little perspective thing.
Right.
Now I tend to be just more grateful. I know that you're working in and through me, and I appreciate that, and I get to go along for the ride and see,
Right.
what you're doing.
Right.
So it's just a little change. I have looked at this for some time. I think the beginning of it was, I don't know where I was at, but someone brought up A.E. Knox, the literal New Testament concordant, and we were in 2 Corinthians 5, 18, 19. That is the conciliation verses. Yet all is of God, first of all. Do you need to say anything after
I know.
that? Yet all is
Right.
of God, who conciliates us to himself through Christ, and is giving us the dispensing of the conciliation. How that God was in Christ, conciliating the world to himself, not reckoning their offenses to them, and placing in us the word of conciliation. Now, as time went on, I would see this verse and that word conciliate. And I couldn't find it in other Bibles. In the King James, I think in the NIV, I think in my Blue Letter Bible app, it always said reconciliation or reconciled. And so then I started looking up some of the interlinear, the Greek, where they show you the Greek words for these things. And some of them showed that as that one word was the same, and then they might, in their definition, they might use the word conciliation, but they use this one Greek word. But in the concordant for A.E. Knox, Concordant Literal New Testament, there's two words. The word for conciliation, which I wrote down, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, it's like catalasso or something like that. And the meaning, it sounds like it's a compound word, down change. I haven't figured that out just yet. Except for, I think, well, he's up here in my mind, so the change comes from up there. But the definition that someone had told me years ago was this was a one-sided act. One did it. It didn't need it from the other. And it talks about an estrangement, a situation in which two parties are not getting along. And this person's one act is a conciliation. And that's what we have in 2 Corinthians 5:18. He conciliates us to himself.
All is,
God. And that knowledge of that, to me, means reconciliation. Now I know this truth. It reminds me of 1 Timothy 4:10, especially believers. In this life, we know this. We understand this. We've been given this understanding, so we are reconciled. Everybody will be reconciled each in their own class, right? That's 1 Corinthians 15:23, each in their own order.
The conciliating part is the all is of God.
Yes.
So whether you realize it or not, you're conciliated.
Yeah, and he is not reckoning your
everybody.
offenses against you.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's the same in that.
So then
I like.
Oh, I love
that.
I love that. Then I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go and look up the commentary by Knox to his concordant Little New Testament. And so I'm going to read what he wrote about 2 Corinthians 5:18. Okay, this is the conciliation that he's talking about. Again, I love these guys who can write like this. All is of God. This is the key to real evangelism. Here we have, in brief, the heart of the true evangel for the world in this administration of grace. The keynote is conciliation, not the sinner conciliating God by penance or prayers, but God conciliating the sinner. The sinner may be most offensive and insulting, but God does not reckon these offenses against him. Let this be clear. God is not charging men with their sins, for Christ died for sins. He is not pressing their offenses, for he is bent on conciliation. The evangel is not concerned with the sinner at all, but with God's attitude toward him and with the sufferings of Christ. He has placed in us not the message of judgment, but the word of conciliation.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
That is rich. It is pregnant with meaning. I mean,
Yeah, the word of conciliation.
Yes.
Well, right.
not judgment.
No.
This is different. Obviously, the way it worked before in the Jewish was the penance and all the sacrifice, everything that they had to do. Then I went to the word reconciled, and I thought there's no better place than Colossians 1:20. So I'm gonna have Dean read what Knox says about the reconciling in Colossians 1:20 and 1:21.
Start right here.
Yep.
All right. Just as his glories in creation take us back to the very beginning, so the greater glories of reconciliation take us to the very consummation. The universal reconciliation cannot be fully accomplished until the close of the Aeonian times, when all sovereignty and authority and power and even death are rendered inoperative, and when all mankind are saved and justified. This takes us far beyond the new earth portrayed at the end of the revelation of Jesus Christ, for there he still reigns. Many of mankind are still lost, and death is not yet abolished. All right, and then this is 21.
Yeah,
This
I love
commentary.
21s.
At present, reconciliation includes only those who, like the Colossians, believe in him and have not lost their hold on this great truth, or indeed have never heard of it. Salvation depends only on the work of Christ and is not affected by our moods. Reconciliation depends on our side upon our enjoyment of his favor.
Yeah, I love that. This is similar
That's what you got
to what
highlighted.
you brought.
Yeah. About a settled peace,
Yes, rooted and grounded.
a settled joy.
Yeah,
That's what it's saying, upon our enjoyment of his favor. There's
Yes.
no, I really see it one-sided, and it's all about coming into a realization of, wow, we have this wonderful Father that loves his creation
right.
and has a plan for everyone. No one's getting cheated, like I used to say all the time,
Right.
and that's really, really true. No one's getting cheated. It doesn't matter the timing of things. He's got the timing down. So
For me, the interesting thing with him saying it's on our side of this issue, it's upon our enjoyment of his favor. I would have to say, being completely transparent and honest about, as I've been through this journey with Father, that was not an immediate thing, enjoyment in his favor. I had so many other misgivings about how I was supposed to feel about, the Christ who had to be put on the cross for me. There was so much that was just off. And it created in me, so this enjoyment in his favor has been a transformation. It's been something that Father has continually shown me to the place where I can really realize it's not. It's never been on me to gain that favor. And
Yeah, we got it.
now he's
conciliating.
It's lavished on us. And the Knox says it's about his attention to us, not the sin, not the sinner.
Right. And it's not about then, like you mentioned earlier, about judging others, things like that. That's where that focus is when we're judging ourselves, judging others, and we're looking at that. We're looking at all these problems or all these things or all these different beliefs, if you will, and all these different, you got to line up and you got to be right. All that, that's the world we live in. That's not what he's talking about. It's not the heart of what he's talking about.
No.
I like when he brought up here and for those, he said something about for those that's maybe never heard of this or heard of anything. You're not, maybe you've never heard or understood about a father that loves you or a God or a creator or something.
Yeah.
You've never heard. Does that mean you're not okay? Does that mean you're not conciliated? No. But you haven't heard about it yet.
Yeah.
Or something. And so if there's anything to do, right, it would be to help. If there's anything to share, it'd be to share some good news. Not to judge somebody for some kind of, what we think they need judged about or.
Right. And that was a funny thing in religion when they, there were people who had never heard this good news. And they lived an entire life and died. And then, as a young person, you were like, well, how was that fair?
Right.
If they never heard this,
when we used to think it was on the human to do something
but
about it.
Look how much more beautiful that makes the Creator who conciliates us to himself.
Right.
And it's not about whether he knows it or not. He's going to know it at exactly the right time that Father has determined, So I thought that was cool. I had seen it a long time ago and I couldn't put it into order. And some of the things I was studying seemed to be not in line with what I was told about this conciliation being a one-sided affair. I just knew, okay, that sounds cool. I'd like to know more about it. And then yesterday and today, I started looking in the back of Knox Concordant and then found this difference that I could appreciate.
Love it.
So
that's good.
All right, guys, have a good week. Love you all.
Yep. Love you all out there. We'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye.